welcome to the premiere issue, maybe the only issue of Smack Talk with Shawn Ray. And of course, the man I'm talking about is Shawn Ray. And he's sitting in his, are you sitting in your laundry room over there?
This is actually not my laundry room. It's actually my office.
Oh.
And I'm actually, my TV's over there, and my couch is over there, and my wet bar's here, and I got my little trophy back there from back in '91.
That your Arnold Classic trophy?
That's the one I got to keep. Remember, I had to give the 1991 back.
Did you give it back?
I had to drive down to Gold's Gym and give it to Gold's Gym so they could deliver it to Mike Ashley, who at the time was living in Arizona.
Well, see, if you were smart like Jay Cutler, you would have told him you were going to sue them, and you probably would have kept the trophy.
I didn't have the intelligence factor back. That was in '90. I was like, I don't compete for a trophy. I'm competing for the fame.
Right.
You know,
right.
so.
It
was a long drive to Gold's Gym, bro. That was a long drive.
How much money did you have to give them back?
So they never gave us money. They gave us envelopes pending the results of the drug test.
Oh.
So the envelopes were empty. It was just for show on stage. We all knew what we signed up for, and I actually got notified while I was doing a seminar in Canada from Wayne DeMille himself. Yeah. And so I got nothing. I got a handshake. I had the trophy. The trophy was home. I had to pack that in my car and drive it to Gold's Gym, and the walk of shame was coming in the gym with the trophy. Everyone wanted to touch it and hold it and congratulate me, and they don't know why I'm there.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving it with the gym manager. The gym manager knew because I called him before I made the drive.
Yeah.
And then I left, and it was like, you know, getting another one was not even in my economy. I just thought I'll never see that trophy again. So fortunately, I went back and I got third at the Mr. Olympia in '90, and then of course I went back to Ohio and I won that bad boy. So
yeah,
I got that. That's my Sandow.
Yeah, but giving back that trophy had to be terrible. I mean, you know what? I'm sure probably the drug testing protocols that they had instituted were probably not according to the IOC or anything like that. You probably could have fought the whole thing, but I guess, like you said, you were kind of new to the sport. You really didn't know that much about it. If Shawn Ray today was going through this, there's no way you would have given back that trophy, and you know it.
Yeah, I would be keeping the trophy and having them try to sue me to get it back. Yeah. But, you know, $60,000 in 1990 was a whole lot of money for I was 24 years old. But luckily, not having money at that time, it was like I didn't miss it because I didn't actually. If I had physically had that money and have to give it back, pull it out of my account and write it back to them, that would have been probably the hardest thing to deal with. But luckily, I was so booked in 1990, and Joe Weider was so dead set on the fact that, all right, so you won the Ironman, you qualified for the Olympia.
Right.
By the time the news broke, Dave, it was like May, and I was training for the Olympia, so I didn't have a chance to really wallow in self-pity.
What did you win at the Olympia for third place back then?
It was $18,000, which is a far cry from that 60. So mind you, it was 10 at the first ever Ironman in February, and 18 at the Mr. Olympia. And I was trying to save to buy a house. I was in an apartment in Gold's Gym.
Right.
And so when that Olympia came and I got that 18, and I had that 10 from the previous Ironman. Remember, I had all these appearances leading up to the Olympia.
Sure.
Now I'm third, so I can ask a little bit more for guest posing.
Right.
As soon as the Olympia was over, from literally September to December, I was all over the world making appearances. Right. And then going back to Ohio, I got the 70,000. I combined all of that savings, and I was able to put down a nice chunk of money on a house that was $325,000, and right now that house is $1 million.
I was going to say that house had to be worth a fortune today, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I sold it. I sold it a long time ago, but that's the beauty of bodybuilding is it creates not only careers, but I mean, you could build a life from it, and. Nobody built a better life out of it than Lee Haney. He actually told the story. He won one of his Olympias, and he asked Joe, what do I do with the money? And Joe said, buy some land. Because he wasn't ready to buy a house. He was already with his wife, and they were out in L.A. doing the business, and he bought some land. Mm-hmm. And that land in Atlanta turned out 20-some-odd years later, the Atlanta Hartsfield expanded, and they had to build the airport, expand the airport.
Right.
$2 million they gave Lee Haney for that property.
God. Really? Who knew that?
He took the $2 million and bought a strip mall, and in that strip mall, he's got Starbucks, Verizon, some Subway sandwiches. Wow. They're paying him rent.
So is that where he makes his money from? I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's cheap to begin with, especially back then. Yeah. So he ultimately did buy his house, and of course, that $2 million windfall, he bought the strip mall. He's clearly paid off his home. He's living the life. I mean, he's a great example of somebody that at a very young age, because remember, he was 31. Yeah. Turned his career into a life with his wife and 2 kids.
Sure. Yeah, but it's interesting, Shawn. For as many people like you and Lee who invested the money, there was a lot of guys out there who made a lot of money, and by their own admission, I think Flex Wheeler said it that he spent a lot of it, just on cars and stereos and all kinds of crazy stuff.
You don't get educated in boxing and basketball. There's no class you take for money management, right?
Yeah.
And most athletes are afraid someone's going to come in and take it. And how many athletes have we known their agents mismanage their money?
Sure.
And they turn around, their career's over, and the managers spent it all. So it's a slippery slope, man. I mean, it doesn't come with that. And Mike Tyson, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on record as saying he lost $300 million. I don't know if he lost it, or if he spent it.
Yeah.
But he never expected to live past the age of 40. And a lot of athletes, when they're in the throes of it all, think it's going to come forever, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's interesting. Speaking of guys who spent their money wisely, I think Ronnie Coleman's another guy who probably, probably saved most of the money that he was making. I know he probably made a lot of money during his career, and he's still making money, owning that company.
Texas is cheap to live, too.
Yeah. I mean, I think he lives in the same house he had his whole life. I don't think he even bought a new house, did he?
Yeah, and I think he bought his mom, and he's bought a couple of homes out there. It's cheap. I think he paid like $150,000 for those houses, but
that's crazy.
From the sound of it, he's talking about spending $2 million on these surgeries. Let's get to that.
Yeah, okay? That was my segue. Obviously, I did a rant on the Ronnie Coleman situation because I kind of got sick of people laying blame on Ronnie and saying that Ronnie did this and that Ronnie, caused himself to be paralyzed and that Ronnie was training too soon after surgery and that's why he's in this predicament. Don't you think it's a little disrespectful that, here you got a guy who obviously laid his body on the line to be the best bodybuilder in the world, and arguably he might be the greatest of all time, just like Muhammad Ali was the greatest of all time, and look what happened to him. He got Parkinson's, from ostensibly getting hit in the head too many times. We don't know that for sure.
I watched that rant. I want to comment on it because this is what you and I are kind of disagreeing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you are putting him in the company of Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time. Now, Muhammad Ali, you can get Parkinson's without ever getting hit in the head.
Right, but they think that his was
might have been.
Yeah.
You can get Parkinson's without getting hit in the head, right?
Yeah.
You can't require a double hip replacement and back surgery and neck surgery and tricep injuries without lifting some heavy-ass weight. So, did Ronnie bring this on himself? It's the price of doing business. Sure. But there's a whole lot of ignorance in that. Number one, you're defending arguably one of the greatest bodybuilders, and he wouldn't be who he was if he didn't do what he did. That being said, there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to justify that his training style didn't contribute to some of those injuries because he's got the sloppiest form I've ever seen. And I've been a bodybuilder for a very long time. And you're not going to have great form lifting that heavy-ass weight, but because of that, you're going to wind up having some injuries. And you're going to train through those injuries, and you're going to make them worse. How many times did I watch videos with Ronnie Coleman where I saw a doctor say, we wish he would stay away from the gym? And then you see him waddling into the gym on crutches doing the very thing that put him in the predicament. There's not a whole lot of sympathy, Dave, that's going to come from me. I love Ronnie because he's a good old-fashioned homeboy. But his intelligence matches his ignorance when it comes down to going back to the gym, the very place where these injuries happened, and doing it again and expecting a different outcome. Those screws broke while he's in the damn gym doing exactly what put him there in the first place.
Shawn, those screws broke when he was in the hospital the day of surgery. He turned over and
I had a conversation with Branch Warren who said he was there when Ronnie Coleman was doing fucking leg press and the screws broke. Well, so what story are we gonna believe?
Well, they broke twice. So one time they broke when he was in the hospital. So
Let me tell you something, Dave. If you got screws in your back, you're intelligent enough to know that you're not going to wind up underneath a squat bar or a leg machine or probably even go into the gym. I mean, there's very few people that can turn it off. So Ronnie's career is over in 2006. He's got some time to guest pose and make a little bit of money and ride it out. But Ronnie was born to train. Some people you can't take out of the ring, like Muhammad Ali. He fought several fights beyond his prime.
Absolutely.
A lot of fighters do. And may make a bad situation worse. But, Muhammad lived a pretty long time and had a fruitful life, and he wouldn't be who he was if he didn't keep fighting. But there's about 3 forgettable fights towards the end of his career that we don't even know who they were that beat him up. Right. Mike Tyson, same thing. And he said it. I did it for the money. Yeah. Well, Ronnie Coleman was done. And when he was done, he should have found a different type of a hobby. Swim, golf, play with his kids, sail off into the sunset, take the pound. You did it. You take the poundage down, you change the diet, and you become comfortable in what you've accomplished. I don't think Ronnie turned it off. And when he had the very first surgery, whether it was the hip replacements or the back surgery, the gym is no longer your friend. It may be a place of therapy, But Ronnie put himself right back in the driver's seat for something to go wrong. And it continually went wrong until it broke him down. So I'm holding Ronnie responsible. I didn't really care too much when he said, these doctors may be trying to make money off of him, because the doctors don't get in that line of work so that they can. How much money did the doctor get, right? He's got insurance.
Yeah, but Shawn, here's my thing with the doctors. Here's my thing. Look at the size of this guy. He's, he obviously is a larger than life human being. He's got more muscle, even at this stage, even though he can't train the way he needs to. He's still big. I mean, they should be using screws screws shouldn't break. Okay?
Back up. You're talking about they shouldn't break. First of all, they didn't break while he was walking down the park. Okay?
No, but some of them broke.
And it wasn't the first time.
Some of them broke right after surgery. He turned over in bed. They turned him over and they broke. So obviously, forget what he broke in the gym, if he broke anything in the gym. Let's talk about the ones that broke after surgery. They're obviously using screws that are not strong enough for his body. His body should be able to sustain itself and move without having to worry about the screws breaking. So obviously, they got to use something that's more reinforced. And would that surprise you, given Ronnie Coleman's the way he looks and what we know about Ronnie Coleman and how strong he is? Obviously, this guy needs something stronger than a 98-pound woman would use.
Well, let me just tell you this. First of all, those screws that broke, when they broke, is there a guarantee when you go in the doctor's office that you're even going to come out alive? Absolutely not.
No, absolutely right. You're right.
You can't hold it. The doctor didn't make the damn screws. They probably used the best screws that they probably had.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that says, look, when you go under the knife, you're going to come out of here and you're no longer going to feel any pain. You're going to be able to walk again. Doctors cannot make promises.
Of course not. Look,
it wasn't that doctor, it was another doctor. But
I had my quad repaired 3 times and still not work. It's still not fixed. So I understand that. There's no guarantees.
Blaming the doctor is like liable. Like it's almost on the verge of slander, because you cannot hold a doctor responsible when you go in there to try to fix something that you self-induced. Ronnie's in there because he did that to his body. The doctor's in there trying to help.
Yeah.
And he went 3 times. And so you got to back off of it's not Ronnie's fault. It's absolutely Ronnie's fault. Right now, if you have B-roll, play Ronnie's training. Let's see him squat. Let's see him do the dumbbell rows. Let's see him do the barbell rows. It's the worst form I've ever seen in a bodybuilder. Forget about Mr. Olympia. It worked, but man, it's a price to pay.
Well, I mean, look what Dorian Yates did. Dorian Yates was making comments about Ronnie pushing too hard, and Dorian Yates tore, a bunch of muscles too, because he was training too heavy,
I've always kind of said that what makes these guys is what's break them, because you can't sustain it against Father Time. There was a moment of clarity, I'm sure, somewhere in your career where you said, I've got to back off.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When you decided to back off, I'm sure it went across the board. I don't know that Ronnie Coleman ever had a moment of clarity, even after surgery. When you have your double hip replacement, even if you're thinking about therapy, are you going to get underneath a leg press? I mean, the guy's training in the freaking hospital. God bless him. God bless Ronnie. Look, if you die doing what you love, it's a glorious death. A lot of race car drivers, when they get behind that wheel and they're going 200 miles an hour, we're not surprised if they die on the racetrack, but they die doing something that they love doing. They're gladiators. That's what they're designed to do. A boxer stepping in the ring, a football player taking the field, even a bodybuilder getting in the gym. We all know at any given time that moment can come. But now the price that he paid is I don't want to say the fruit of his labor, but it is a consequence of his training. From one injury to the next, you cannot blame the doctor. The doctor's there to try to put the Band-Aids on, because there's no guarantee. And I'll tell you something else. Those back surgeries are no jokes. Those pain pills he's taking, they're going to take a toll. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that body's going to start breaking down in a way that the gym never affected him, because you got toxicity, opioid addiction, and Dan Block. You remember Dan Block? He helped create Flex Equipment. Mm-hmm. He had back surgery and became an alcoholic, became addicted to pain pills, and the next thing you know, he committed suicide.
Yeah.
I don't think I think Ronnie has too much love for life and family and all that stuff that he'll get there. But the pain that comes with it, Dave, I don't think you and I will ever understand it. It can take you to another place. And Ronnie's in a place right now that I believe he has to take some responsibility. You can't say that this doctor did this to you. That's just, I think it's wrong. When I heard that, it was laughable.
If you were Ronnie Coleman now, what would you do? Would you downsize?
Downsize. First of all, there's nothing in the gym waiting for me but another injury if I'm Ronnie Coleman. Okay, you just got to say no. Like, it's almost like a football player when you get that concussion and they say one more hit can paralyze you. You got to make that decision whether you're going to stay or go.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, the hips, the tricep, the back, the neck, all that stuff, and then you got these kids and you have this business and you have this people that love you. Stay the hell away from the gym. The gym for him should be kryptonite at this time. And if there's no one in his family telling him, do not go to the gym, somebody's got to, there should be a watchdog on Ronnie Coleman and say that, you go swim, find another hobby, play video games, but the gym is not where you're going today. Not while these kids are here. Not while I'm here, I'm your wife. Not while I'm here and I'm your sister. Somebody's got to rein Ronnie in. And there's nothing he can do with respect to these doctors. They're in there doing their jobs. And I just think that was really a slap at the doctor who was actually trying to help him, that he's pointing the finger at the doctor. That wasn't even cool, Dave.
Well, I don't doubt that, like, Ronnie is not maybe necessarily the best patient in the sense of compliance goes. But, a lot of people are blaming I think the whole thing stemmed from an initial injury that he had early in his career. And from what I understand, he wasn't even doing a lot of weight when it happened. It was one of these moments where you're not paying attention and you kind of just lean the wrong way and something just pops. And I think that kind of mushroomed over the course of his career. And just obviously, he kind of ignored it, and it wasn't that bad initially, and it probably got progressively worse. So I don't think Ronnie caused the issue, but I don't think I'll agree with you in the sense that he's not helping make it better now.
He's not helping. He's actually continually making it worse.
Yeah,
this
I will agree with that.
First time. So he was at the Arnold Classic, fresh out of surgery, and knowing there's a surgery ahead of him, and he's in there shooting videos in the gym, lifting weights. You've seen him. I mean, he's on his crutches. It's a gladiator that you're like, man, look at it. Like, you saw the movie Gladiator, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, the guy gets stabbed before he has to fight this guy in the arena.
Yeah.
But he stays and continues to fight all the way. Ronnie's going to fight all the way to the end.
Right.
But the gym is what's going to take Ronnie Coleman. If you walk in the gym and you find him dead, are we going to be surprised?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the graveyard for Ronnie Coleman is. But if he can turn it around by staying away from the gym.
Well, I think Ronnie's got so much to contribute, from a perspective of wisdom, of stories, of love for the sport. I think he's just a positive influence on the sport itself. So I'd hate to see him, anything happen to him in that sense. But, what I don't like is that the fans out there, or supposed fans, you know how it is, Shawn, they're very fickle. There's a lot of jealousy for what Ronnie accomplished, and now they're like, while he was winning Olympias, everyone wanted to be his best friend. Oh, I know Ronnie Coleman. I'm friends with him. I got to work out. He spotted me. Whatever the case may be. Now that he's hurt and that he's injured and he says, I can't walk, now everyone's like, oh, you see, it was all the drugs he took.
That's where we live. That's where that's the time we live in. I mean,
that's what I don't like. That's the disrespectful part of the whole system.
Anybody with an opinion, Dave, can no longer write to the magazine.
Yeah.
And then you have an editor on the other side that can filter that out.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way to hear your voice, was to write a magazine. Hopefully it makes the pages so they can see your rebuttal.
Yeah.
Now all you need is a YouTube channel, a Facebook page, an Instagram account. So we're hearing from everybody. And let me tell you, not everybody's wrong, because Ronnie does have to take some responsibility. How many surgeries? 10, 11?
I think 9.
After every single one, he's back in the gym.
Right.
So
he's trying to rehab. Yeah, I agree.
Listen. There's a lot of ways to rehab. The guy can barely walk. You don't need to go do leg presses to rehab your legs. Like, freaking one step after the other. Go walk in the park. Go walk on the. Right. There's a lot of people that are Monday morning quarterbacks. Mm. But to watch him do this to himself is more painful to watch. I mean, Lee Haney, granted, he got out at 31 years old. He's healthy. He found something else to get involved. Ronnie's got a million things going on in his life. But nobody can pull him away from his passion, and his passion is what's breaking him down. He's not getting hit by cars. He's not boxing in the gym. He's not doing a branch warren and slipping on the wet pavement and tearing a quad.
Right.
These injuries are all a domino effect that are all related to the gym. So please, most people don't listen to me anymore, Dave.
No.
But if they listen,
that's why I'm trying to make you relevant again, Shawn.
Well, I got to come to RX for the 5,000 people that are listening. Stay away from the gym. Become the ambassador that you are. Promote your brand, you know. People understand why you're not in the gym, so stop going there. If Ronnie was 150 pounds, it might be kind of shocking to see, but we could understand why. I mean, even Muhammad Ali, when he had his advanced stages of Parkinson's, he was still Muhammad Ali. Yeah. And while it might have looked sad, we had all those memories. Ronnie's given us all great memories and motivated millions around the world. But now it's getting to the point where, look, people are not only disappointed, but they're getting upset at this continuation of, hey, I'm going back in the gym, and he's in his surgery gown lifting weights. It doesn't even look, it's not even cute anymore.
Yeah. Do you think that Ronnie's worried maybe in his mind that he won't be relevant? I mean, if he's not as big, or if he doesn't have 20-inch arms, I don't know. What do you think the mindset is of what's going on?
Dave, I think we both know that bodybuilding is filled with a lot of people that are kind of misfits. I mean, we are a cult sport. People come in with bigorexia. You were on that deep end at 285 or whatever you were competing at. I gotta get big at all costs. Rich Piana, Greg Valentino. Then you have the other side, girls that are anorexic. Then you got the girls that are doing the schmo stuff. I mean, there's so many things in our heads when it comes down to looking in the mirror. I asked Shawn Roden over the weekend at the LA Fit Expo, or the San Diego Fit Expo, I said, so what are you going to do next year? Because this year was perfect.
Yeah.
What do you go back and work on? Because clearly you've got to work on those arms, and you got to bring up that back and just stay on top of the detail. You know what he said?
What?
Him and his trainer said, we need to be 10 pounds heavier. Now, who do you know that told Shawn Roden he wasn't big enough? And you know exactly what 10 pounds on a 43-year-old bodybuilder is going to look like next year. Big Ramy showed us.
Yeah.
He needs to go the other way. Like, all you have to do is get in shape.
Right. And
continue working on your weak body parts. But 10 pounds, that's what you guys are going to work on in the off season to be bigger than who?
Yeah.
I mean, Ramy came in bigger and it backfired. Right. So bodybuilders, including Ronnie, including myself, if we're not careful and pump our brakes, you can go too far. And there's a lot of bodybuilders, when it's all done, our relevancy is based on how we used to look. I used to walk in the Arnold Classic with Kevin Levrone when he was, $180. And Kevin didn't have the same swagger, didn't have the same confidence, felt like a misfit, kind of out of place, a fish out of water. No one was recognizing him. Right. And even John Brown, we were over in Germany. That's where John Brown made his name. We're at the FIBO, and I was at the peak of my career, and John's taking pictures of me because people don't remember who John was because he's smaller.
Right.
There is an identity factor that hits us all in the face. You'd be surprised. I mean, like I said, everyone has an opinion. They're calling me fat and out of shape and all this. Dude, we train to look a certain way, and when that window's gone, you got to be comfortable in your skin.
Sure.
Or else you're going to continue doing this behavior, and it is a destructive behavior at some point because we go to a place that other people aren't able to go as bodybuilders. And so we have to reel ourselves back in not to go there. That's why I stopped training with bodybuilders. If I continued training with bodybuilders when I retired, I would tear something. Or I would just keep bodybuilding. And here's the difference for football players. Either their careers end because of injury or age, right? So very few of them go, okay, it's my 15th year, I'm done. Unless they get a cush, in-office job. But when their careers are over, they don't continue putting on the mouthpiece and the helmet and running into freaking people at practice. When it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
So as a bodybuilder, we have to psychologically recondition our mind that I'm not training to impress other people. I have to train for longevity. And there's a whole other structure of how to eat, how to go approach the gym. I train at 24-hour fitness. And I'm good if I get in there 3 days a week. I'm happy if I get in there 4.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get me out of bed in the morning because I did it for a living, and I was consumed with the mirror. I was consumed with comparing myself to other people. I was consumed with what people thought of me, their perception of how I look on season and off season. And when I stripped all of that away and the dust settled and I no longer had to be 230, 240 pounds, I stopped trying. And now I look like a freaking genius because I got out injury-free.
Yeah.
I eat my pizza with no guilt and no regrets, and I give a shit what people think about me. And very few bodybuilders can get to that point. You got to that point.
Yeah,
but even then, it took you a long time.
It was a process. But I always, the difference was that it wasn't always about the gym with me. I had another side, an intellectual side of the sport, curiosity. I always loved supplements. I wanted to create my own supplement line. I wanted to educate people. I was interested in the science of the sport. That got me more excited. And obviously it had application to my bodybuilding career, but it was an exciting aspect of the sport in and of itself. So when I stopped competing and I realized, you know what, at 35 years old, I'm not getting any better. There's no reason for me to continue. I took a different approach and recreated myself. But it's very hard to do that, like you said, Shawn, because a lot of these bodybuilders identify with their bodies and how they look, and they think if they're not huge that people won't respect them anymore, or they won't look up to them. If you've put the work in and gave 100% to the sport, you've made a mark. Ronnie Coleman, like you said, will always be 8-time Mr. Olympia, one of the greatest of all time, whether he's 100 pounds or if he's 200 pounds or if he's 300 pounds. And I think that, I agree with you. But
is it going to come with an asterisk? Look, the guy's got a degree in accounting.
Yeah.
I think he said he graduated cum laude or something like that. Very smart and intelligent. He's done very well financially. But he's a smart idiot right now in the eyes of many people, because all you have to do is read the comments. People don't want to come and attack a legend like that unless he's doing some stupid shit.
Right.
And so those comments are coming from a place of like, dude, enough is enough.
Yeah, but you know what it is, Shawn? I'm going to tell you what the mindset is. The mindset is that, hey, when I trained all out and I gave 100%, I looked and felt my best. So he figures, let me get through the surgeries, let them fix what's wrong, and then I'm gonna rebuild my body. And I think, and he only knows how to rebuild his body one way, with heavy weights. And as you said, you can't do that anymore.
That's the quagmire that Ronnie Coleman has a disease. It's not big or aggressive, but he's addicted to the weights. I would not be surprised if on some level we see something down the road that here's a guy that was addicted to the weights, that he destroyed his body. And people would find a way to logically confirm that, including the many doctors he's probably visited. Psychologically, those doctors have to hear from Ronnie. You got to advise Ronnie. And then Ronnie goes back and he does what Ronnie wants to do. So if we go back and we poll those doctors and we start doing some investigative reporting and we start talking to people that know Ronnie, there's going to be one common thread, and that Ronnie's in love with the gym. Yeah. Is that a healthy thing? Well, I mean, there's people that are in love with food. There are people that are in love with crack. But we got to call it what it is. When you get to that point, it's an addiction. He's addicted to lifting weights, I think.
When I got my shoulder replaced, I told the doctor, I said, don't tell me, don't give me generalizations. Tell me what I should and should not do, because as bodybuilders, and this doctor happens to be a bodybuilder himself, but he knows the mentality. We don't know. Because what we think is not that hard or not that intense is a different definition than the general public. So,
Dave, how many people tell you you can't do something? As a bodybuilder, our first inclination is like to prove them wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So I listened impeccably, because the worst thing I could ever imagine is going through a surgery again. That's the same, something you never want to have to do.
And there's some people that just don't have the fear factor. Yeah. I mean, I will relate my one area that I was really scared for my bodybuilding. I was doing seated rows, long pulley rows, Dave, and as I stretched forward, I felt something in my lower back, almost like pull apart. Yeah, it felt like it was going to happen. I let the weight go, and I stood up very carefully. I did a little bit of inventory, and then I didn't mess with those long pulley rows for a long, long time. But now that had happened, it made me scared in the squat area. It made me scared doing standing presses. So when you start getting scared of the weights, it actually is a way of telling you, be careful. And when you start training carefully, you can't get the gains. I don't know that any injury told Ronnie to train carefully, because he had one speed. And I don't want to be that guy at the funeral that's going, I told you he was going to kill himself here in the gym.
Yeah, you love to do that. You love to be that guy, though.
I think if I like to get out in front of the story, that's what I like. I like to get out in front of the story, because if someone's going, no, there's a train, the train's coming, slow down. I'm like, okay, and I move over and you hit the damn train, I look like freaking a genius. But somebody is not listening. I got to hold these athletes accountable. So when I heard you talking about, well, it's not the drugs, it's not the training, go back and look at Ronnie's training. Look at the loose form. Look at the poundages. He was an accident waiting to happen. And
but you know what, Shawn? If he never laid it on the line like that, would he have been the greatest Ronnie Coleman of all time? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that his training mentality and his desire inside and his passion for what he did, whether you call it, safe or not, is what made him the best. He was willing to lay it on the line. It was like a guy who invests his everything he's got money-wise, lays it on the line, and makes it because he believes in
And,
himself.
and that's the narrative. Okay, so if you're sticking to that, that's exactly who he is. So how are we supposed to feel sorry or sympathetic to a guy that lays it all on the line?
He's not asking us to, though. Everyone else is out there making judgment calls. I don't think Ronnie's just putting it out there for content for his Instagram. I think everyone else are making these judgment calls that Ronnie's not even asking us to make. He's just saying, hey, this is what's going on.
Everybody's going to have an opinion. So while Ronnie's expressing his opinion and he's trying to educate us, the other side is you made your bed, now lie in it. I mean, we said that about before Ronnie. There was Dorian,
right?
And I knew at some point he was going to crash and burn. So there was the tricep, then there was the bicep, then there was the quad, then there was the shoulder. He was smart enough to walk away on top. And of course, Jay Cutler ended his career with a bicep tear. Yeah. Phil Heath has got now the second time for, what is it called with the stomach? What is it?
I don't think there's anything wrong with his stomach.
Oh,
I think he just has a distended stomach. Yeah.
Okay, so we got the stomach issue. Yeah. But these guys, either they're going to have to recognize and come to Jesus moment and say, if I keep doing this, this is going to keep happening. Right? Dorian and Branch was at the Olympia, had his bicep reattached this past September. It's very hard to get out without an injury. So here's multiple injuries that domino effect from whether you hurt this shoulder, now it's this shoulder. You hurt this hip, now it's this hip. This guy's a walking, we could see him in a book that says what not to do. And if it's about learning how to train, are you going to watch the Ronnie Coleman video and try to be the next Ronnie Coleman? Because he's a cautionary tale of what.
Well, you said it best, Shawn. You said it. It's very hard to tell someone who is the best in the world at doing something, hey, you can't do it anymore. Guess what?
True.
You know what? It doesn't serve you anymore. Stop doing it. That's all they know. And that's what made Ronnie Coleman successful in everything he did. So he doesn't want to change who he is. And I understand what you're saying. You have to recreate yourself at some point, or you wind up, killing yourself. And I think Ronnie's making it worse. I agree, but I don't believe the way he trained. Look, you can't blame because you know what? There are guys that train, and don't have problems. He got unlucky, but in the sense that he was also the luckiest guy. While he was winning, everyone would have traded places with him in 3 seconds to have his body and to have his problems. And so, you can't. I don't think Ronnie has any regrets. You can't live life with regrets. But I do agree with you in the one sense that he needs to stop doing what he did now and do things differently, because otherwise he's going to wind up, not even being paralyzed. He's going to be, he's going to be a cripple, and we don't want to see that.
Well, look at Michael Jackson. Okay, he had an opioid problem or whatnot, but he would fire anybody that was trying to tell him not to do it.
Right.
And when you're at that point where you can't listen, you can't take direction, the next story we hear from him is going to be what? A surgery? I mean, are we going to see him in a courtroom in a wheelchair trying to sue a doctor for malpractice? That's a tough one to prove, malpractice, especially when you show the history of the surgeries and the history of how did he wind up here. Yeah. He takes his case to court to sue this doctor for malpractice. All they have to do is look at how he wound up in the wheelchair in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think Ronnie's suing anyone, but
okay.
It's nice to play. I think what would happen is you start to try to think about what happened and why you're in the predicament you're in the predicament. And when you're in the midst of it, you really can't see the big picture. And I think that's what's going on now. I don't think.
Well, that's what prompted me to kind of reach out, because you did defend him pretty vigorously. And I'm saying there's only one reason we're talking about Ronnie Coleman today. And that's because he put himself in a place where he has to go under the knife. And I don't know about you, but if I had one surgery that didn't go right, maybe I'm going to a different doctor. But it sounded like this one doctor has three bites at the apple here, and if it's the wrong doctor, at some point you got to walk away.
My point is, I don't think that what he did to win the Olympia is why he's in the predicament now. What I do agree with you on is that I think he's not making it better now, and he might be making it worse, trying to continue to train, with the vigorous vigor that he had back in the day, when it doesn't serve any purpose at this point.
So look, Dave, if I have a drug addiction, right, and you're my friend or you're my family member, and I'm leaving the house, and you know where I'm going, you're my friend or you're my family, you're going to try to stop me, right? So who's letting Ronnie leave the house to go to the damn gym? Somebody's got to say, look, not today. No, go to the park. Let's go to the pool. Let's go play ping pong or anything but the gym. Do not go to the gym.
Look, I agree. Shawn, at this point, I think the gym is not helping him. I do agree, 100%.
So he put a valuation on those surgeries at $2 million. Does the guy have insurance?
I'm sure he's got to have something,
I mean, how do you know that it's $2 million? And
well, you get the bill, Sean. You get the bills. When my dad got his, he broke his leg and he got it all fixed. It was a $400,000 experience, but he only had to pay, $100 after the insurance was all set.
Okay, so that was my point. When I heard you guys talking about that, I thought, okay, maybe it's $2 million, but you're making it sound like you paid $2 million to get a bad surgery. And that's not the case.
I don't think so. I mean, unless I don't know what I'm talking about. It doesn't sound reasonable that Ronnie wouldn't have insurance. I'm sure he's got insurance there. So, but
I mean, listen. God bless Ronnie. Yeah. And remember, we have the First Amendment right, and everyone has an opinion, and he probably may not agree with it, and he's reading the comments. He might see this. I don't know if he watches RX. I doubt that he does, but let's say that he does, and let's say that he hears me talking, and he probably doesn't like what I'm saying. The one thing that you can't take away is that the common thread here is that you and I have both agreed the gym is causing this, Ronnie. So stay the hell out of the gym. We want to see you live for a very long time. And if you're wheeling yourself around in a wheelchair and that's your fate, it doesn't take away what you accomplish as a bodybuilder. It doesn't make you less of a person or a man. But if you go back in the gym and you start putting those videos of you training in your wheelchair in your house, what do we do? I mean, I'll probably start crying because it's laughable. It's not something we want to see. You can tear your bicep doing dumbbell curls.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he's got to temper his training. Shawn, before we go, just give me a quick plug. What's going on with the Shawn Ray Classic? When is that?
So I got it coming up in 2 weeks in Hawaii, and of course we're trying to figure out how to get Dave Palumbo and RxMuscle out there to cover it. I guess it's not in the budget, but there may be another opportunity in 2019.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting. Yeah, I want to be treated like VIP royalty. Come on, man. Put you on my show. Bring me out there.
Listen, Dave, listen, we go back a long ways. Yeah. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had my run at Muscular Development. So we're good. But I do know in 2019, there's another big announcement. I'm actually going to make the announcement in 2 weeks.
Okay.
But about 2019. So I want to make sure that you get a piece of that because publicity is king. And at the end of the day, we're trying to all make this whole thing better. NPC has now gone global.
Sure.
I've got some athletes that'll go over to China to compete. Hidetada's got a show over there in Japan that I'm emceeing. Some of my winners will go to Japan. I've got Swole O'Clock Watch giving away watches, Gripped Headphones giving away headphones. These guys are getting stuff on the island that they don't ever get. I mean, they were getting the tiki cups and swords, and now I'm bringing national championship trophies over there for these guys to win. And if you haven't been to Hawaii, you've been there. I know you've been there, right?
Number of times.
You catch those. Yeah, Dot and Mitsuko Shima, they passed on. There's a whole lot of opportunities. So the NPC is doing some great things. Dan Solomon, our good buddy, has gotten promoted to help promote the Mr. Olympia. I just had dinner with him last night, and there's going to be some revelations coming out about next year's Mr. Olympia that I think you're going to really like.
Oh, what's that?
I don't want to be the one to put it out there. I'll let Dan do it.
Why
That's
not?
His job.
Tell us.
Well,
give us a
that's
teaser.
another show. All right, so there's 25 guys in the Mr. Olympia, but we only get to see 10 posing routines, right?
Right.
Because of time constraints and all that other stuff. There's going to be something for everybody that gets to the Mr. Olympia, which is deserving. If you come from Poland or Czech Republic and you get to the Olympia and all you get to do is stand there, you're not going to want to go back, right?
Right.
I mean, they're going to try to resolve that. So there's some changes going on with how the Mr. Olympia finalists are going to be done, and I was excited to hear that news. But yeah, my show's coming up November the 10th. It's the biggest show in Hawaii. And I'm going to come back on after that show to share some really good revelations that's going to involve RxMuscle.
All right.
You and I got to get together. I want to bring that Shawn Ray Muscle Camp back out there to Jersey and have you come out there and cover it. You're going to be my media source.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Shawn's employing me now after he spent 10 years smack talking me. That's why
You're still looking for a job?
Shawn, you know what the great thing about me is? I'm just like you. Nothing bothers me. It doesn't matter. I'll break your balls, but you could break my balls back, but I won't lose an ounce of sleep, and I'll laugh at it. So
well, every once in a while I catch your show. Once in a while I catch your show. And look, this is not a Ronnie Coleman bashing session, but it is a lesson of cautionary tale. If you do what other people do, and you see the results of them are not productive and fruitful, you need to turn and go the other direction. Not everybody can be a Ronnie Coleman, and in his predicament now, there's not a whole lot of people that want to be Ronnie Coleman.
Sure. Well, let's see if, I'm going to try to get Ronnie on the show in the next week or two. And I know Jay Cutler wanted to come on with him and talk with him on the show. So that should be a great one. I know he's still recovering a little bit, and he's probably feeling a little under the weather. He did make that big announcement, but, I don't think that was a big revelation. I think a lot of us knew that he probably wasn't going to be walking very well, at least for given the fact that he hasn't been doing well the last year or so.
Everybody knows who he is, Dave. Nobody's judging Ronnie Coleman.
No one cares. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But.
So I appreciate what he brought to the sport. He elevated the game. We're never going to see another Ronnie Coleman. But the one thing I don't ever want to see is him actually working out in the gym. Maybe do some yoga. I mean, look at what Dorian's doing. It's incredible, the transformation and how cerebral he's gotten. And the gym, it doesn't involve the gym. And he's healthy.
Ronnie could be like a Yogi Berra, you know what I mean? He's he'll have witty sayings till the day he dies. We'll be quoting him for 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that he gets that moment of clarity and he makes the acknowledgement verbally and says, "Look, guys, I've had it with the gym. That ship sailed, and I'm available in whatever capacity, conversation, coaching, whatever, but." We don't want to see him lifting weights anymore.
Look, Ronnie, if you're listening out there, you give Shawn a call. You can go do yoga classes with Shawn and play golf on the weekends.
Absolutely.
And that's the end of it. That's all there is to say. I'm Dave Palumbo for Shawn Ray for another edition, maybe the only edition of Smack Talk.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, D.
All right, thanks, man.
Have a good one.
Be good.